Hello and welcome to Time to Talk with Howard Kirby. I've just had a really enjoyable 45 minutes chatting to Howard, who I've known for a long time, reminiscing and talking about all things from Kuni pigs through to world champions and deer stalking and grouse shooting. So I hope you enjoy it. We rambled a bit, but it was really lovely. So get yourself a cuppa, settle down and enjoy Time to Talk with Howard Kirby. Take care, stay safe. Bye-bye. Okay. Hi folks, I'm here with Howard Kirby from Mullins Court Gundogs and Lane Shooting School. And I've got to say, I'm so looking forward to talking to Howard. He always just makes me laugh. So no pressure, Howard.
Yeah, especially if I'm going to make you laugh.
Yeah, I'll probably be falling all over myself tonight. I'll be giggling and not be able to get the words out. And yeah. So how are you doing? Are you enjoying the sun?
Yes, thank you, Les. Yeah, the sunshine and the COVID kind of layoff has all come at the right time for us, really. So it's given us lots of opportunity to get outside and do lots of dog training, but more importantly, at this stage of the game, lots of maintenance that we would have been doing otherwise, but without the pressure of ongoing lessons and the shooting school being open.
No, that's great. And so has it affected you much being in lockdown or not? Only from a positive
it's quite funny, isn't it? I saw a post on Facebook the other day saying you know you're antisocial when your lifestyle doesn't change. And you know, I haven't been off this property since I came back from Northumberland about 5 weeks ago. But that's not unusual unless there's somewhere for me to go with the dog or the gun. Clearly the shooting school is closed and we're not doing lessons, so we're not having customers coming up. But you know, it's at the moment financially we're okay, and as I said earlier, it gives us an opportunity to get on and get some jobs done that otherwise the customers would have been in the way. Dare I say that?
Yeah, crikey. So I've known you for quite a while now, and so I'm going to go digging into your past, because a lot of people probably know you from Mullins Court TV, which is a big group that you've got on Facebook, a big training group, and from Sport and Shooter, you know, the gundog man from Sport and Shooter. But I know you from years ago when you were still very much a lab man.
Correct. Yeah. And, a long time ago.
You know, trialing. I'm not going to go trialing. I'm a lab man. I go shooting. I'm a shooting man. And so, and I can remember you had the pig. Was it a Kuni pig?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we had Lottie.
Lottie.
Yeah. She terrorised the shooting school for quite some time.
So you're one of the only people that I know who's actually trained a Kuni pig. Because did you click train her or?
Yeah.
Tell me about your pig to start off with.
We had her as a pet. Yeah, we had her as a pet as a bit of fun. And she was a real character, like pigs are, aren't they? And to be fair, we kind of over socialized her really, and she was a naughty pig. And I was kind of interested in clicker at that time. I was exploring the use of clickers in dog training, so it seemed a good opportunity to try and have a bit of fun with Lottie and clicker train her. So we taught her to sit and to beg and to stuff like that. But she didn't have the social airs and graces of a dog. She would, the last straw was 3 days in a row. She would wait till the shooting school clubhouse door was open, and she did a ram raid. She basically barged past customers as they opened the door, ran into the clubhouse, grabbed a bag of Mars bars. And this was the funny bit. She knew we would chase her and try and get them off her. And she just ran and ploughed into a big bush of brambles, got herself in the middle, and within seconds consumed the 5 Mars bars and all the paper and everything with it. So subsequently, she became too much of a handful for us here at the shooting school with public here. So she moved down to the New Forest and was let out under commoners' rights onto the New Forest. But again, because she was over-socialised, she became troublesome in the New Forest because, of course, if she spotted somebody with a picnic, there's a lot of funny stories came back that this Lottie would go charging in and just rampage through their picnic. So she was a bit of a nuisance. They had to take her off the forest in the end because she became too naughty. So she was good fun.
That's so funny. But why a pig? Because you've got a background, haven't you, with pigs?
Yes, I kind of cut my teeth farming pigs. I learned my agricultural trade, my livestock trade in pigs. I had an outdoor pig herd of my own come the end. And so I've always had an interest in livestock and animals, and pigs particularly. They're fascinating creatures.
I mean, I used to. I mean, they were huge. They're just huge. One of my friends used to keep her horses when I was young on an allotment, and there was pigs. And like that, they'd come running through the stables, and you just had to get out of the way. You'd jump up on the walls. Just these huge pigs, and some of them had massive tusks as well.
Yeah, well, that was the advantage of these coonies. Obviously, they're a little bit smaller. I mean, she was meant to be a micro pig, like so many micro pigs that get sold to unsuspecting public. And she grew to be pretty big, but she wasn't the size of a full-blown commercial sow, which are, as you say, they're just huge, aren't they? They're just
and we raised a couple of piglets. When I was 17, I worked in a hunt yard, and we raised a couple of piglets, and it was heartbreaking sending them off to slaughter. And even now, I mean, I've not long started eating vegan. It took me like 40 years, you know, or 30 years. I started eating pigs again, and it's only bacon, because it doesn't look like a pig. It doesn't look like the little piglets.
That's right. Yeah, it's hard when you rear the animals yourself. Yeah.
Mm. So then you got into dogs. Was it dogs then, or was it?
Dogs were there whilst I was farming for shooting. Yes, I had my first Labrador in '87. I think first Labrador of my own in a grown-up kind of way, and so that was the first dog I kind of trained as a shooting dog in 1987. Her name was Margot, and she was a black Labrador. Yeah.
And so, why did you move across the Spaniels?
Oh gosh, why did I move across to Spaniels?
Because you were definitely a lot man when I met you.
I think I've always enjoyed the drive in a dog. You know, a dog with real drive, and it was clear to me that Spaniels. Obviously, this is controversial. I'll upset all the Labrador people now. I still train and keep-owned Labradors, by the way, just in case I'm going to get.
No hissing.
No, no booing or hissing, but. I just enjoyed that drive, that really hard hunting drive that the Spaniels brought to the party, and that's kind of stuck with me as now, you know, I've got an interest now in all of the hunting dogs, being that I now compete with hunt point retrievers and setters and pointers as well. Just that drive, I think that drew me in and still holds me in there with them now.
And so, do you still work with Spaniels? Do you still have them?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, I have just acquired 3 more Spaniels with a view to competing with them this year. So I've bought a 40-month-old, a 60-month-old, and a 2-year-old in the hope that I can get at least 2 of them ready for the competition season this year. And then we've bought a young cocker that won't be ready till 2021 season. So back into Spaniels in a big way. I mean, it's always been my end game has always been to get a business running enough to allow me time just to compete whenever I wanted to. So now I can compete the pointers and setters through the spring and summer, and then field trial and compete with the Spaniels and the hunt point retrievers through the winter, as well as all the shooting and fun that goes on. So we're getting closer to that, closer to having the time to be able to do that.
That's awesome. So, right, I'm going to rewind slightly. So I've seen you bringing on a very young, she was quite a nervous wee spaniel on the Mum's Court TV.
Chilly. Yeah.
So yes, are you bringing her on for, so do you still do your demos? Do you still do all of your display work?
No, this is interesting. This is the first year we've chosen not to do demos. We're going to have at least a 2-year break to see whether I can cope with, I say cope, I don't think I'll go back to doing demos other than we've been asked to do the game fair for the last 2 years and probably this year coming. So we'll probably do 2 or 3 of the bigger shows a year, but being on the road here, there's so much going on at Mullins Coat and the shooting school now. I really need to be here. And if I'm honest, you know, people tease me and kind of call this Fort Kirby here, but I love it here. This is my playground, you know. The people I love being with, my family, all are here. Most of them are here and work and help out here as a business. And most of my mates through dogs and shooting come here. So I've no great desire to be away from home, if I'm honest, Les. It kind of suits me not to go on the road and do the shows. They're really hard work, you know. Yeah. It kind of sounds great fun, and it is. When we were young and enthusiastic, you know, we were doing about 25 weekends a year, which was huge. We were away almost 52 weeks in the year. We were away almost as much as we were here, and it was good fun. But it's hard work. It requires a lot of commitment. It requires a big team of dogs and the vehicles to transport us around the country in relative comfort. So we've arrived at a point where we made a conscious decision last year to tell all the shows that we won't be coming out for this year. So first year off.
Wow, I mean, great for you, but really sad for everybody, because I've seen you in the display ring a few times, and there's for me, there's nobody better. You're such a showman, and you just hold the crowd, and you draw everybody in, you get everybody, you know, cheering, and you'll work a dog and then take the mickey out of somebody in the audience, and it's just a joy. So people who haven't seen,
well, it's a wonder if I've had a thick ear from taking the mickey out of people in the audience.
Well, yes.
It's probably it's good to quit now, but while I'm ahead, so to speak.
Yeah, the people, you know, it'll be a real miss at the game face, because it was always such good fun seeing you. But I mean, amazing that you're doing so. Why did you transition from spaniels to HPOs? Because I've got a spaniel now. I had a spaniel for 5 years, which is kind of, I don't know how I ended up with a spaniel. But you know, in one of my instructors runs Visualize, and she keeps saying, "No, you would really sit a HPL, get a HPL." And I think for me, if I was going to get a HPL, it would be a Spinoni, which I know isn't the punchiest breed of all, but I just love them. So why, you know, if you like this real punchy hunting drive of the spaniel, why did you transition across to?
Well, I was fortunate enough. It literally was like with the pointers and setters as well. I was invited to go out on a day where some friends of mine who own and hunt and trial, very successful people actually, German long-haired pointers, hunt point retrievers, and I went and had 2 days with them up in Suffolk on sugar beet, and the way the dogs work, the sugar beet, the way the dogs produce birds, just was fascinating. It was inspiring, and so much so that my pal Rob Gould, who I was staying with, and it was his dogs we were shooting over, I came home with one of his old field trial champions. Literally, that's typical of me, you know, like going at the deep end. So I was just inspired by them, absolutely inspired, and I just thought, I've got to have one of these. And he said, well, take her home. So I had his dog for the rest of the shooting season, and she went back. And yeah, absolutely hooked, Les. Just you know, the ability of the hunt point retriever to point. I think it's the pointing element that even we know this from doing shows. People who aren't really that enthusiastic about dogs, when they see a dog on point, it's a dog at the top of its game. It's absolutely in the moment in terms of its hunting drive, and to see that massive control just makes people, you know, it's an overused phrase, but kind of the hairs on the back of your neck moment, that it's one of those. And so that's what I love about the pointing breeds, and also the pointers and setters. So that's how I got in, and I've not looked back really. We've just gone hook, line and sinker into them now.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, I just love that. Is it Review Visualize? He puts a lot of videos up, and watching his dogs work as a team, and you see them and they go on point, like the first dog will go on point. And I'm not a HPL person, so I don't know all of the proper terminology, so please correct me if I get it wrong. But
yeah,
you see the first dog, the lead dog, go on point, and then very slowly the dogs behind him almost form like an arrowhead formation when they're working in a pack, and then the next one will come forward, and then the stalk. And I just think it's so primal, you know. You can almost imagine, like,
of all the hunting we do with dogs, it's the one that seems most like pack hunting, as you say, you know, where you're hunting them in braces or more, the dogs will, the word you were looking for is back. The second dog will come in and back. And I keep deferring my hunt point retrieve clients to a piece in David Attenborough's film, usually on the trailer to some of his films, and you see the wild hunting dogs. And there's a clip of film that they use that is just, I keep watching and watching and watching it. There's about a pack of about 8 or 9 hunting dogs, all lined up, all on point. And you kind of know, and I know this is very primeval, but any prey on the end of that pack is in a lot of trouble. You know, they're very, very successful hunters. And the hunt point retrievers is a slightly diluted version of that, but it's as close as you can get to seeing a dog really hunting naturally, really hunting naturally. You know, with the spaniels, don't misunderstand me. I love spaniels. It's what I like doing, but it's a bit more human. The humans influence it a bit more, but with the hunt point retrieve, we're kind of relying on a lot of the dog's natural instincts there.
Yeah. So when the hunt is a pack, would you say it was a pack, or would you hunt them? You know, would you hunt them?
We'd hunt as a brace.
Would you be a brace?
Yeah. So when we compete the hunt point retrievers, we only run them as singles. But there is no reason why you couldn't, on a shooting day, hunt 2, 3, 4 dogs. As long as they're well schooled and they know each other, then they will work as a pack. They will back each other. So the first dog that finds game holds point, and then the other dogs should come in behind and shouldn't steal his or her point. They should come in up behind and back him. You know, not take over the point and spoil the moment.
So the back dog, the second dog, they take over. They would then stalk forward, and they would become like a dog, or
no? I mean, in its pure form, what should happen is that, so you will have in a pack situation, in a wild pack, you'll have a dog that's more dominant than the other, and they might well take over the lead. But in competition, where we're being marked, so in the pointers and setters, we hunt them in braces. So there's 2 dogs in the trial at the same time hunting. And so when the first dog finds a bird and comes on point, the second dog should come in and back. And when that second dog backs, it shouldn't put pressure on the lead dog. It shouldn't force the dog, and it definitely shouldn't claim the point itself. It shouldn't overtake and get in front. So it must stay behind at all times. Physically and mentally.
So in a pack situation, so because I'm looking, my behaviour head is going tick 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 tick, and you know, I've done quite a bit of work with wolves as well, and so that whole thing is, so the lead dog would be, for want of a better word, the alpha. I'm probably going to get hissed at, and then the second dog would be the beta dog, which always sits in behind. Unless
in theory. Do you know what, Lez? It's a good question. In a wild situation, I don't know, because of course the lead dog initially will always be the dog that finds birds, or finds the prey. So, you know, if you've got 4 or 5 dogs hunting a bigger savannah or something, then whichever dog finds will be the dog that indicates. And so once the dogs know about pointing, any other pointer or setter in the field, as soon as this dog locates prey and comes on point, then the second, and third, and fourth dog will react. They'll go, "Oh, look, Fido's found one," so they'll come in and join in with him, knowing full well that they know that behaviour. And that's part of what we have to do in the training is allow our dogs an opportunity to learn what a point looks like, not just what they do themselves, but what another dog looks like on point, so that they recognise that visual stimulus or visual cue and come in and back. Because if they haven't seen it, they'll just blunder through and ruin the hunt effectively if they don't know what the other dog's doing. So part of the hunting dog's success is to recognise, hey, my mate's got one, I need to creep up behind him and help him out, back him.
Brilliant. That is so interesting, because you know, when you're working with a pack of aggressive dogs, where you've got a family of dogs living together and they're aggressive, then as they go out, and I'm not talking about gun dogs, I'm talking generally any breed, you know, it's a real divide and conquer rather than gun dogs. And so they'll see the prey and one of them will go around the back of it, and it's like when you're on a walk, if you're walking, you've got a couple of dogs coming towards you, one of them will go around the back, because that's the intrinsic behaviour. of a pack attack. And so it's really interesting when you think of, you know, a pack attack like that where the dogs will split and go behind, rather than a trained hunting dog who go in formation and go forward and stop and point. It's I mean, I know I've gone off topic, but for me that's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, bear in mind these bird dogs are conditioned from tiny, and we run them generally into the wind, so they're looking to use their nose to get downwind of a bird. So basically, you know, it's stating the obvious. It's the pause before the pounce. The point is the pause before the pounce. So, you know, if your hunting dog, every time he kind of was running across the field, went, oh, there's a mouse there, and just pounce, it's quite likely he would pounce and miss where the mouse is. So that pause is just that extra location. You'll see the dog come on point and then just use its nose to figure out through scent exactly to pinpoint where that bird is or that prey is, and then subsequently when they're schooled they pounce or they flush on command. So we tell them to get in, and bang, in they go and produce the bird. And of course they then have to sit and watch the bird away, which is tricky because that's counter, you know, it's not what they would expect. They normally give chase or try and catch. So we have to make sure we school them not to do that, just to produce the bird and get it up in the air in the hope that there's some shooting to be had.
That's brilliant. So how do you how does the work differ with the HPR to a setter or a pointer? How is it slightly different, or is it pretty much the same?
It's slightly different in the breed lines themselves. You've got a slightly different dog, and within the pointers and setters, within the hunt point retrievers, again, that's one of the joys of the breed groups, pointers and setters and hunt point retrievers, is although it's a breed group, you've got lots of different breed types within each group. So you know, within the pointers and setters, you've got the red setters, the Gordon setters, the English setters, the pointers. People used to call them English pointers. You've got all these different breeds that all do the job very slightly different in the way they carry themselves, the height of their head, the speed they run at, the way they set. So my English setters, I have two English setters, they lie flat to the ground. The pointers stand in that big, high, traditional point, taking air from a long way in front. So that's the variation there. But between the pointers and setters, the most significant difference is they don't, in the UK at least, we don't ask our pointers and setters to retrieve. Hence the hunt point retriever is a different creature. He has to have the hunting skills, he has to have the pointing and the locating and holding skills, but also then he has to be trained as a high quality retriever. You know, the dogs running in our championships, the hunt point retrieve championships, the top 10 dogs will be superb retrievers. I mean, first class retrievers that can be handled at great distances and pointed and directed just like a Labrador retriever, as well as all the other skills they have to master. So there's an awful lot to be done if you want a very tidy, smart hunt point retriever.
So what, I mean, I haven't seen you. I think I've seen you once since I moved to Scotland, which is over 4 years ago now. Hard to believe. It's just zipped by. So what dogs have you got now, Howard? Because you mentioned, I didn't realise you had English pointers as well. So Craigie, what have you got in your stable, so to speak? What have you got?
In the stable, in the kennel now, we have two English setters, Sky and Flirty. We have two German shortheads, two big brown liver-coloured German shortheads, one called Enzo and a pal of mine that's called Heidi. I'm helping out a mate of mine with her. We have 4 Springers, 2 Cockers, 1 Labrador, what else? One Terrier. He's not in the kennels, he lives indoors, much to my disgust. He's Lindsay's pride and joy over myself. He takes precedence over everything. So those are the breed types. I don't think I've missed any out. Yeah. So Springers, Cockers, German Shortheads. Oh, I missed out the German Longhairs. My goodness, how could I miss out the German Longhairs? German Longhairs. I think that's it. Oh, Labradors. Yeah. So all those different breeds.
Good grief, that's amazing.
It's good fun. It's really good fun. I just love everything about dogs. You know, whether they're being schooled to be assistance dogs, drugs dogs, or in our case, what we're involved in primarily in game finding dogs. I just can't get enough of it, you know.
Mm. And you used to do a lot of work with Battersea, didn't you? Do you still do that, or not so much now?
No, that's kind of fallen apart a little. I say fallen apart. It's just the contacts I had there. We at one time were taking 3 or 4 dogs a year from Battersea. I say taking, they would phone us and offer us dogs. And to be fair, they phone us every year and they ask us if there are certain dogs we can either take for them or find a home for them. So that's why I've always affiliated myself to Battersea Dogs Home as a charity, because if they have working dogs, they'll look to find them working homes. So for the guard breeds, as you probably know, they put them into the police and the security industry, appropriate homes. And with gun dogs, if they find a gun dog, they'll try and find it a gun dog home. That, you know, they're not anti all of these things. So that's why I've always admired Battersea so much. And as a result of a demonstration we did at the New Forest Show, Battersea had a tent there. And they came to us and said, hey, you know, would you be interested in rehoming and reschooling a young dog we have? And he came to us. We had him. He was called Henry. He ended up staying with us. He was a collie cross English Springer Spaniel. Now, I don't know whether you remember him.
I do. I can see him. He used to do What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, with you, didn't he?
That's right, yeah. He did all kinds of fun things. We learnt a lot from Henry. Henry taught us an awful lot, particularly about collies, because that collie mind of his, he looked more like a collie than he did a spaniel, although the spaniel in him just took the collie edge off him. And he then led us into, oh gosh, I don't know, we must have done about 12 dogs for Battersea Dogs Home, where we've had them in and reschooled them and then rehomed them. So yeah, Battersea, again, it's been fascinating working with them. They were very kind to us. They took us up, let us see around the premises and find out a lot about what they did. Really interesting. Like anything, behind the scenes, there's an awful lot goes on that you don't get to see from first glances, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I remember him. I can remember seeing you do a display with him of What's the Time, Mr. Wolf. He used to sit on a chair, didn't he? Henry used to sit on the chair. Yeah,
he'd like to sit up high and watch the world go by, because he, you know, like so many dogs that come from true rescue backgrounds, they've had a pretty hard time. I said they've had a hard time. They're not overconfident in and around humans. Humans have not always done them the best.
Yeah.
And so Henry used to worry about things, and he found we discovered that he would put himself up on a chair, and he just used to kind of fluff his chest out a little bit more once he got up on the chair, and you could see being higher.
Yeah,
and in his chair, like we use place boards and targets nowadays, just makes them feel comfortable. So we used to take the chair everywhere we went with us to demos, and in all our demos, he would just get up on the chair. So it was kind of fun, but it was done for a good reason. Henry, you know, offered that behaviour, and we followed through because it clearly worked.
No, that's great. And I mean, the other thing that you're really, really well known for is your shooting school. And yes. I can remember doing my safe shot with you years and years and years ago, and that was really interesting. I don't shoot.
No.
But it was great. You know, coming down doing clays with you, and I used to shoot rifles, like 303s, and you know, British Army rifles. I used to shoot years ago. But so, are you still doing a lot of shooting? Are you still doing a lot of?
Yeah. Well,
when it was open.
Sorry, Les, I'm talking over the top of you. I now do more, because the dogs I hunt over, we shoot over. They're dogs that, you know, you're not driving birds towards waiting guns. Mm-hmm. The dogs are shot over. So I'm shooting over dogs more than I ever did, which kind of combines my love for shooting and working gun dogs all at the same time. Hence another reason why the spaniels and the hunt point retrievers I find so much fun. But nowadays, my son Charlie, who's 27, gosh, you know, he's a grown man, and he kind of runs the shooting school. So I used to do a lot of shooting lessons, or give a lot of shooting lessons. Now I only give shooting lessons to one client, one guy who won't mind me using his name, called Wilf, who insists that he has me mainly to have a good old gossip and a catch up, really, 2 or 3 times a year. But I don't give shooting lessons anymore. All of my time is consumed more or less every day, giving 3 or 4 gun dog lessons per day. That's what I do. But the shooting school kind of is run by Charlie, although it's just over the, outside of us.
Mm. And so can I ask you, because I haven't been grouse shooting,
Yeah.
I've worked, I've picked up partridge and pheasants, and now that I'm in Scotland, people are going, oh, you must go grouse shooting. But I mean, my knees couldn't take going through the heather and all of that. So how does grouse shooting differ from the traditional driven pheasant shoot? It's a driven grouse shoot, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's two versions of grouse. You can have walked up.
I'm going to settle back and listen.
Yeah, so walked up grouse shooting again is the most fun for me, which is where we're using hunt point retrievers or pointers and setters to run the moors and locate and find game and point and hold them and flush them. And then if we're lucky, we can get up close enough to the grouse to get a shot and, get to shoot one and retrieve it and take it home. Whereas what grouse shooting's kind of famous for is what's called driven grouse shooting. And that's kind of the mecca for a shooting man or woman. Unfortunately, it's incredibly expensive to shoot grouse, which is what kind of tarnishes people's view of it, I'm afraid, where there's this, anti-shooting lobby there. They kind of sometimes see it as something for rich, well-heeled people, which is true. You do have to have a lot of cash if you're going to go and shoot grouse, driven grouse. And so that's where guys, teams of guns, 8, 9 or 10 guns, wait in butts that you'll see if you're lucky enough to go up on the grouse moors. You'll see these beautifully formed, like round butts where they hide, and then the birds are driven and over the guns. And it sounds, it's the grouse. Flying grouse is renowned for being one of the toughest shooting targets you will ever encounter in shooting sports. So it really is the mecca. But so two types: walked up and driven. What we do lots of in the season is walked up. We're very lucky to have opportunity to go up north and do a lot of walked up, and that's considerably cheaper, I can tell you, than the cost of going driven grouse shooting.
So they don't have pegs as such, how you do on like a traditional driven pheasant shoot. There's no pegs that all fix. You don't move around different pegs and different drives.
Yeah, you do. But instead of a peg, you have a butt. So it's slightly below ground, so that you're right down, almost not quite at eye level. So you're watching grouse, because grouse fly very close to the ground. Really. Yeah, they hug the contours of the ground, which is what makes them so exciting. So they're not like a pheasant or a partridge that takes off and goes up. And stays up for a while. Grouse just take off and then fly the ground in packs, big packs. Anything from a single grouse to a pack of 30, 40, 50 might come through, depending on the moors you're on and how densely stocked the moors. I say stocked, wrong word. They're not stocked, they're wild. That's the
wild grouse,
exciting thing, that they're all wild. So it's such a privilege to be out, with this moor. And the ecology and everything that goes on with the grouse moor itself is just the most fascinating place. I mean, you really should. There are some moors that aren't kind of knee deep in heather where it's relatively straightforward to walk on. And I would encourage anybody just to go and learn, if you ever get an opportunity to go out with a grouse keeper and learn about the ecology and all that goes on and all that goes on with regards to keeping a moor. It is just the most fascinating subject, let alone studying the grouse and how they behave and fascinating. There's so much that I don't know about it, but a little bit I do know is just wonderful.
Because I find the whole keeping thing, I mean, we've got a mutual friend in Peter Stagg, and the amazing keeper who had the patience of the saint with me. I would be constantly badgering him on the shooting, what's this and what's that, and what about this and what about the other. And I found it really fascinating talking to him, just the whole cycle. I mean, he wrote a section in the Advanced Pet Gundog for me on the whole cycle of, bringing in poults, raising them. And I just find it really fascinating for me. And I know the people that I've trained who weren't necessarily into shooting, to then, when they start getting into it, it becomes very almost cliched, doesn't it? The whole circle of life. We get really excited coming up to June, knowing the birds are coming in,
Yeah.
through to rounding them all up and sending them back to the game farms. It's just the whole ecology behind it is amazing. And I mean, I've seen you work your land as well, where you've been putting down cover, game cover ready for when you've been preparing for your competitions.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I just find the whole thing fascinating.
Yeah, it's such a, the gamekeeper's role, or shooting. If you're interested in shooting, there's so much to learn about. There's birds, there's livestock, there's wildlife, there's the countryside, there's the weather, there's the crops that are grown and are not grown, and everything that it is just. It's a massive subject, and as you correctly say, with somebody like Pete Stagg, or Staggy as he's known to us, down at on the south coast there. The knowledge of these people, because they're so rounded, they have to have a huge amount of knowledge. It is fascinating, and if you're lucky enough to stand with a keeper, either a grouse keeper or somebody who works the pheasants and partridges down here, their knowledge of the countryside is just unbelievable.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I mean, because I teach anatomy and physiology, I teach comparative anatomy and physiology, dogs and people, and I've taught human anatomy for years. And I can remember standing one morning waiting, to go off and start the drives of the day. And I wish I could remember his name, and I can't. He's a really old guy, hopefully he's still around, really, really old guy, weathered guy. Tanner, is it Tanner you call them, where they start skinning the deer? And I found this fascinating, because there was a deer hanging and he was taking the skin off it, and he was just... It was amazing, because he was using, I'm going to describe it because this will be going out audio later, but he was using the knuckle of his index finger, and he was literally just working the skin, working the fascia to lift the skin off the deer. And I could quite easily have went, okay, I'm not picking up today, I'm staying in here.
Yeah, I'm going to stand and watch this guy. Yeah.
It was so skilled and phenomenal to watch. And then I know you've done it as well, but when Pete started telling me about what they do as a keeper, you think, oh, they're just looking after the birds, or they're just, and there's always like, oh, they're just doing this, or they're just a keeper. And then we had a chat about because it all goes into the food chain, and having to when you're doing the stalking, to actually check all of the organs of the animals and make sure they're healthy. And I was like, oh my God, can I come and do this with you? Because I was so interested in the insides from an anatomy and physiology perspective. When I did a degree, I had to dissect a fetal pig. And
did you?
I did. I know, it was amazing. And I mean, it smelled, it was, the formaldehyde smell was disgusting. But then, in the thought of, to start off with, had to pin it. And when that was done, as soon as we opened, it was like, I was in my element. I thought, I didn't know the diaphragm looked like that. And oh my God, look, if you lift this out,
you should have become a CSI. You should have become a CSI.
I know, if I had my time again, I would love to have done, anthropology. I would love to do, like postmortems and anthropology.
Yeah, well, fascinating subject.
But you used to do that. Did you used to do that where you were?
No, I've not been involved with deer management and shooting, and subsequently what they call the gralloching and the dressing of a carcass. I've done it. I've been there, and I've been out, and I've had an opportunity to stalk both roe deer and red deer, which is fascinating and fantastic. But the gundog side of things just consumes me, Les. I just don't have enough time to do all these wonderful things, and it's kind of... Maybe as I get older, I regret not having such a rounded view of life. But for me, I'm just focused on the gundog element of it, and it's all that really fascinates me at the moment. It's all I just want to be the best and the best and the best that I can be at it, and so all of my energy goes into that. As much as there's a big wide world out there to look at, isn't there?
But then a lot of people would really be quite envious of that, because you've got a passion, and you've got an all-consuming passion, which is awesome. I mean, it's awesome having that dedication and that passion to make you have enough motivation and dedication
Mm.
to get you up at silly o'clock and go to bed really, really late, and just keep going day in, day out, you know. And
Yeah.
and I don't know any professional dog trainers who have not got knackered knees. And
Yes.
so to get, you know, I mean, I know what it's like. I mean, I was on sticks for a long time as well with them, and to have that dedication to keep going even though your knees, I feel as if they're gronching and grinding, and
your body's given up the will to function, but the brain still wants to do it. Yes, you're quite right. It seems to be a dog trainer's illness. I guess we do so much walking, up, down, turning, and it just puts a lot of pressure on our little legs. Yeah.
and when you go picking up as well, it's like, you know, especially in the New Forest, where sometimes you're walking in knee-high water and there's all the ruts and the divots, and
it's tough going, walking the moors and the countryside. You know, being part of a shooting day is being relatively fit. Of course, it does require that you are. Yeah.
It is. So, what are your plans for the rest of the year once we get? I mean, I presume you're just getting your dogs absolutely honed, ready for coming out of lockdown.
Yes. Yeah. So I've got what have I got? I've got those 3 spaniels to compete with this year. I've got 2 very nice, very capable young HPRs, a German longhead called Troy, and a German shorthead called Enzo. And so getting those guys ready for October's shooting season and trialing. But in the meantime, if lockdown comes off quick enough, my 2 pointers and setters will be going up. If we're lucky, we'd have to be really lucky because otherwise the trials will get cancelled. We'll get out on the grouse in July, August, to do the trialing with the setters. So that's really the dogs that are on hold at the moment. I think we'll be lucky if we do get out with them, but I hope we will. So yeah, in a short answer, we're busy schooling our dogs, developing our dogs. It's part of what we do, as well as the work we do with other people here, is develop our own dogs ready for trialing this year. So this year really is about competing. I've been asked to run to put on a working test, which is the first one that the Game Fair has had, a Hunt Point Retrieve Home International. So England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. It's huge. It's going to be a massive thing for us with the Hunt Point Retrievers. It's the first time the Hunt Point Retrievers have been in the Home International arena on show. So we've got to put on a whole day's competition with teams from the Home International countries. So that's really exciting. And it's the only thing that's, well, not the only thing, one of the things that the lockdown has really messed up, because in theory, so the Game Fair itself has been put back to a date in September. But we were really gearing up. We'd chosen the captains. We were about to do the selection for the England team, the Welsh team, the Irish team, the Scottish team had all been chosen. And so that's kind of one of the highlights of my summer season, that I'm still hoping will come off if we get out of lockdown quick enough and the Game Fair organisers can see a way through all this mess to put on a Game Fair. So it's the Home International. So that'd be a feat of a lot of organisation, requiring a lot of really good people to help me put that together. That's again part of this year's fun and games to look forward to.
And you're perfect for doing that. I don't know how many people know, but you were part of the British team, weren't you? You went abroad with the British team. Yeah,
I've been abroad 3 times with the British team, the English team, to Serbia and France. Twice to Serbia, once to France, which is just fantastic. The World Championships, the Continental World Championships is something else. It's something you will never see done in the UK. On the scale, the number of people, the number of dogs, the quality of the dogs and the way they run them, which is slightly different to the way we run our dogs in the UK. Just an experience that's not to be missed if anybody ever gets an opportunity to do it.
Do you think we'd ever do anything like that over here?
There was talk once it would be great to run the World Championships, but it's such a monumental, it's a huge competition. You know, there are 400 odd competitors. The amount of ground is, the UK doesn't offer itself to offering that amount of ground that the Europeans have for big running dogs. So it's unlikely to happen, I'm afraid. And also one or two other political, doggy political aspects that will probably stop the World Championships coming to this country. But we have some great competitions, you know, with lots of home internationals and internationals that are mainly held at the Game Fair. So we get to see dogs from abroad running. But if you want to see hunt point retrievers and setters running big, fast, powerful animals, going to the World Championships or going out on the continent is the place to see them really open up and run big, fast running dogs.
We just can't comprehend it. I mean, I find it, because I mean, I'm so used to working with British gun dogs, and they've got their own niche compared with the HPRs. You know, they've all got their own little job to do. You know, they're flushing or they're retrieving or they're setting, and you can't comprehend the range. I know Hannah Spearman, who runs Vizsla, she went out with the Vizsla team to Hungary, and she came back and described these vast distances that they were working the dogs. You just can't get your head around it, you know. You can't, unless you've seen it. You can't.
It's and they you know, they put on a lot of pomp and ceremony. They have massive opening ceremonies. You know, it's really like a mini Olympics that you go on as part of the England team, and they play the national anthem. There's a big stage, and you know, this is a whole 2 weeks of this competition. We're all based out there, and there's lots of driving to and from trialling grounds. It's just something else. It really is. It's fascinating to go and do it. And each different country, the host countries, because they choose a host country each year, hosts it slightly different, along with the, you know, the culture that country brings. So Serbia was right on. We went over there, and it was touch and go as to whether we could or couldn't go. It was called off and then back on. The World Championships in Serbia in 20. Gosh, I can't remember when it was. 20 something, 14, 15. 15 it would have been, you know, down in the very rural areas of Serbia was just another world. It's a world apart from the modern society we live in.
But it's just, what an experience, Howard. You know, it's
wonderful.
It's been such a journey for you, you know. And we started off talking about the Kuni pig, and now we're talking about representing England at the championships, you know, in Serbia. Like, what a journey. It's amazing.
Dogs, not just gun dogs. Dogs have allowed me an awful lot of an opportunity to see and do an awful lot of fascinating things.
Yeah, and that comes from the passion and the dedication to do it.
Yes, yeah, you do need to be pretty. But it was interesting, you were talking about it earlier, and you were talking about the dedication and the hard work, and that's, well, you noted it, is how lucky someone is when you're doing something that you enjoy so much, because it's not hard work. You know, you're just having a bloody good time. You know, if you had asked me at 16, if you had told me at 16 that I'd be earning a living from training and hunting dogs and running a shooting school, it's like, that's a Hollywood job for me. And here we are. I'm fortunate enough to be in that position. And so life is not hard for me, and getting up in the morning definitely isn't. It's as you say, it's I'm very lucky to be in a position that suits me. Wouldn't suit everybody, but it just happens to fit my boat, so to speak.
That's awesome. Absolutely brilliant. Howard, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, as always. And
great to catch up with you too. We miss you being up there in Scotland. I mean, we used to meet up in Marlborough once a month, if not less, more, for a gossip and a catch up and discussing the business we were both running at the same time. So I miss that, Les. It's nice to catch up with you too.
It is. No, I do miss that. We used to go and put the world to rights in the pub in Marlborough and have something to eat and plan the next thing. Oh, how are we going to run these tests? We're going to run gun dog certificate.
Yeah, we've concocted a lot of courses and stuff on the back of a fag packet. Well, that was for me. I do not like smoke on the back of an A4, whereas you'd always have a neat file and do it all very nicely. I'd go, yeah, I think I'll remember that, and have to rely on you to get it right. Yeah, we've certainly had some good times together, Les. So thank you very much for asking me to come on your podcast.
Oh, I'm really glad you did. Thank you. So I shall talk to you again soon, and once we get the other end of the season, it'd be really cool to have you come back and tell us all about it and see how you got on.
Delighted to, absolutely delighted.
That's great. Thank you. Well, take care of yourself and have a good evening, and I'll catch up with you again soon.
You too, Les. Thank you again for asking me to be on.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.